with that, men there want something without doing the work to become that person that can have those things. Because until you become a man that can provide those things and have those things without needing them, you'll never be complete.
Is it starting or did it stop or? Oh, now it's recording. God, I hate that about this program sometimes because it'll give you a countdown, then all of a sudden it just starts recording. Like, oh, we're supposed to talk. Act like there's an interview, you know? But anyways, what's going on, guys? And welcome back to the ShiftEQ podcast with Alan K. I want to introduce my guest here real quick because he's not like one of my normal guests in the past where I just kind of interview some kind of fitness influencer or some kind of someone in a certain industry. Juan Martinez over here is actually one of my great friends from the Navy. And one of the more, I guess, common things that we have in common is that we have bodybuilding, self-confidence, self-preservation, and building our futures all in common. And I definitely wanted to bring him on here because he is one of the better influences in my life. So, Juan, thank you for showing up, man. And before we get started, I want to congratulate you on your most recent purchase of a Ferrari. That's pretty fucking cool, considering kind of like where we came from. We were talking about it before we got on this, but can you kind of go into what that's like for you to get that Ferrari and can you kind of go into how that affects your day-to-day life?
So it's a culmination of a lot of things, just working up to it. Everything's aligned perfectly right now. I'm going to get it next week. I'm pre-approved and everything. I just got to sign it. And it's a powerful thing realizing that your signature is entrusted with that much value. And not just value for yourself, but how much money you're making people with the financing and the purchase of that vehicle. And people, as long as people make money, and I end up positive in the end, the back end of having my dream vehicle, and then what it represents, like you said, where we came from and the work I did to it. Like it's a culmination that all the anxiety and the pressure of making sure it happens. That when I get it, it's like the endorphins are going to be there, but it's just a reminder that I already did the work to get it, and the work is done. Even if I were to get it and let go of it for whatever reason, the work for it is done. And that's what I'm most proud of, that my signature and the work I've done to get there is complete. And as exhausting and an accomplishment that it is, that's the reward that I have to keep chasing even after I get it. Like there's other goals beyond this. And this is just a representation of where I've been, where I'm going after that. But I'm happy. Yeah. I'm very happy about it.
Yeah, that's what I really value about what you kind of went into when you started talking about making this Ferrari purchase, is that it's not about like trying to have other people validate you. It's a representation of how you've effectively validated yourself and worked towards validating yourself. And what I also find interesting, and if you could go into this, that'd be great, is how it also plays into how much you hold yourself accountable physically, your health in more ways than one. Can you kind of go into what that's like for you to have that Ferrari mindset, as you always kind of talk to us about or talk to me about?
It's the Ferrari mindset and the Ferrari body. Like, I'm not going to put bumper stickers on a Ferrari, but I'm looking at your tattoos and I'm jealous no matter what. But no, it just entails the fact that I'm very frugal with everything else. And it just synergizes well because I'm on prep 24/7 just to maintain the look. And it's not even about the look. It's just about maintaining the regiment. And it, like, if you could have, it sounds unbelievable, but saying that, wait a minute, I could be a bodybuilder and be able to afford a car like this. And yes, I can, because my budgeting for food, I don't go out to eat because it's just not in my diet. But my budgeting for food is probably like anywhere from $300 or $500 a month. So that's basically $10 a day, $15 a day or so. And for that, even if I didn't have the Ferrari, I'm still going to do that because it encompasses who I am. It represents everything. It's just a vessel of who I am inside, and I represent it outwards. Same thing with the car. then what you were alluding to is like the car is for my self-validation. Ultimately, someone's going to see somebody in the car. They're not trying to be you. They're trying to be that person inside the car of how they visualize themselves. They're appreciating the car. So it doesn't matter what other people think about me when I'm looking at the car. Because they're not thinking about me. They're thinking about the car and what they want, that they wanted. The same aspect of that is I got the car for me and how I feel inside of it, regardless of how people look at me. It's just the vibes, the expression that you were able to express in the car and how it makes you feel. Because like you said and I explained earlier, the joy it brings to you of driving it. And like right now, I honestly I just got done washing. So I have a Z06, and which is it's a levels to it. But I got a Z06 upgraded from a C7 from 17, and I upgraded to. Life comes at you fast, but I upgraded to the Z06 last year, and I'm already in the year now. I'm keeping this one and upgrading to the Ferrari 458 specifically, same color, both plates over. But anyways, on the way here, I missed my turn, so I can catch up to a ZR1, red one, top of the line. Like same year, same model, just a higher tier of mine, and I had to catch up to him just to see the driver and to admire the car too. But it's just there's levels to it. It's just ridiculous because I'm driving a nice Z06, and next to me was a nice, before I missed my turn, was a nice like truck, like a nice drop truck. You can tell the guy next to me was admiring my car, but then both of us were just probably admiring that bright red ZR1 that I had to catch up to it just to admire it and just to give props to the guy that was driving it. And it's an admonishment between car guys, like props for having that car, and the guy knows too that I'm acknowledging the whatever work he did to get it. And it was just awesome just to see that there's levels to it. And I'm peaking this one and onto the next one.
Yeah. Yeah. And for those of you guys who don't know what a Z06 and a ZR1, it's a Corvette, by the way, just to let you know. And what I really do love about you, Juan, is that you're one of the first people that I know of personally that have like this bodybuilding image, that have the nice fast car, but you're not a fucking prick. Like you can definitely tell that you do it for yourself. And I think that's really important, especially in today's day and age where there's a lot of pressure on men to prove their value, prove that they are something. But I think what I've learned from you specifically is that you can create yourself a nice physique. You can work towards a very nice car. But if you're not doing it for yourself, then it doesn't really fucking matter, because I've seen a lot of people do things just for the pure sake of being externally validated. And it's interesting because I see people chasing external validation when what they're really seeking is internal validation. And for the fact that you can sit there and be like, no, I'm doing this for me. It's how I feel in that car, how that feels in other ways. And I think it's really important for us as men or as just people in general to find out what those pillars are for each one of us so that we can exuberate that confidence in more ways than one. And one of the more important things that is like pivotal in this is the fact that like we can tell a whole bunch of other people what we think is important, how to build your confidence. But what really matters and what really impacts is that if we actually do that for ourselves, and then once we do it for ourselves, it's like we're actually being authentic with what our word is. And then I feel like people get more inspired by that. One of the bigger inspirations that you've also had on me, Juan, is from, probably almost 2023. So I was on the ship from 2010 to 2015. So probably about 10 years ago is when I met you. And you have always been someone who I can always count on for fitness advice, fitness this. Because I remember like one of the first things that you corrected me on fitness wise, because I was excited about this new protein I got, and I was like, "Oh, it's healthy for you. It's got soy. It's got that." And you're like, "Do you want bitch tits, Alan?" Like what? Like no. What are you talking about? Then you kind of put me on soy protein and how that affects. For you, I've always noticed that fitness has been such a strong foundation for who you are as a person. Can you kind of go into what got you into fitness and how that has evolved all the way up until now?
So growing up, I went through depression a lot, just with family issues, and somewhat too, not that big, but just body image issues. But a lot of it was just depression in general, internally. So in order to, the motto of fake it till you make it that a lot of influencers do too, but they can carry this forward, is I wanted to look the way I wanted to feel, but it was more so importantly of how I wanted to feel inside. So I had to fake it till you make it as far as express outwardly what I wanted to feel inside. So, and the thing I learned with that too is fitness is the fairest thing in life. Fairest thing in life. No politics or work politics or anything else, dating too, and everything just socialize. It's the fairest thing in life because only you know how much you can put into it. And besides genetics and everything too, it's linear to how much you put in, how much you rewards you get. It's diminishing returns too, but nothing can affect it other than yourself. And then you're given the tables, the card that you're dealt with, but you play with them the way you do, and then you alone affect the results. And knowing that has just instilled the work ethic to me that I've also been just from being grown up Hispanic and Mexican and just hardworking since that young age. But it reinstilled the work ethic to apply it to other aspects in life. And then the fake it till you make it and everything else that you talked about too is just, there's also levels to your pillars that you mentioned about confidence in men in general, because in society and day and age, as a man, especially after you turn 18, your worth and your value in society is what you can provide. And not just heavily monetarily, but not just monetarily, in other tiers of spirituality and caring and stuff like that, being an all-encompassing man. But it's still, your value is based on how much you provide. And that's hard to realize as a man, but it's true. It's only your family members and maybe your mother that will love you unconditionally. It doesn't have to be biological, but just only your mother will love you unconditionally. Society is not going to love you unconditionally. So you're entrusted to provide value, and learning that as a man, you have to have value first. So you have to build your own confidence first. It's not selfish because you have to fill your cup first. And then once you fill your cup, you can provide others. So once you're at that precipice of being fully confident and having value and doing it for yourself is while you're leveling up, you have to eventually, and what I take great pride in what you say is I've influenced you. I'm not an influencer, but I still try and be an example for other people. And it's not external validation, but it's just, it synergizes to what I want to be and what I provide for friends and family. And one of the big reasons why I'm getting the car and just keep leveling up is to be the man you want to admire and give to the world. And not to be confused with getting validation from the outward world, because of the one thing too that I've noticed, and that I'm big against influencing, even though it's a market that's always growing and for the good, for the better, as long as you apply it well, is the fact that your fans and your people that follow you, they get stuck in spectator mode instead of actually doing action. And it's just one of the big things I was against, of not being overly flashy and just making it. I don't have a big following because of that reason. I don't want it. I make my money in my hard work and other things and other aspects that I'm able to afford this lifestyle as a hobby, a pure hobby, because it grounds me in everything else that I do. But it's going back to that is it's confidence. And then you have to get that internally, and it comes of age. And I just hope to help other people, and especially my brothers and sisters, older and younger too, and nephews too, to be that man, not for them to compare to, but to aspire to in their own realms, because comparison is the thief of joy. But to add to that is once you've made it a self-confidence that you can compare comfortably, to understand that that there are big fish above and below you, but you can carry your own comfortably and proudly.
Yeah. Comparison is the thief of joy. That's, I love that quote. And you know what I've learned in that aspect of comparison is the thief of joy is, like, for example, when it comes to like bodybuilding, right? You have two kinds of people that will come up to you. One that will compliment you. They'll tell you, hey man, you put in some work, like, good job. What do you do? What do you eat? And there's some real love there. Or you get those that are like, you've got to be on fucking steroids, or you're a pussy ass. And like, they'll talk shit about your obvious great results. I mean, this doesn't just happen in bodybuilding. I can imagine it Probably happens to you with your car. Probably happens, whenever a guy has like a beautiful girlfriend or something that just people just talk shit. But I feel like that's a really interesting moment right there where how you respond in lieu of comparing yourself to someone else actually says more about you than it does them. Like if you have a nice physique and I immediately start talking shit with no foundation of it other than talking shit, then it's like, wait, why am I hating on you? Why am I throwing shade? And I feel like a lot of people don't understand that. They just like, oh, this guy just wants to show off his abs. He wants to do this. Like, no, that's actually just a projection of your lack thereof security with yourself. Because why else would you be talking shit to someone else? I really want to take it back here now because you talked about family. You talked about your brothers, your sisters, your nephews. One of the things that we definitely harp on is building like our futures, building a foundation for future generations and setting an example for that. Can you kind of go into what that means for you and like what you've done in order for you to set that foundation for others?
So it's kind of counterintuitive to not it's my reasoning, but it's not an excuse because it's not the smart play to get the car, right? But my idea is within general too is it's hard to break generational curses, especially with money and not having wealth and learning about it. But one trick, mental hack for myself that I've learned is it's easier to pay a bill than to save money. 100%.
Mm.
You're not going to go behind on bills. And so, it's harder to do, but if you can afford a car of this high value that appreciates in value, or at least keeps its value, and I'm basically car hacking the car is what I'm doing. But enough to understand that it's a dream car, but it's just a vessel. It represents something. I don't need to keep it to where if I need a shift in a few years, I can sell the car, and I've already built some equity in it. And if I time the market perfectly, I would actually be making money because I'm paying it off basically as a savings account. But that's the biggest thing is learning how to mentally break generational curses of not knowing how money works. Because the reasoning behind why I say it's easier to pay a bill than to save money, because usually when you grew up less than, you don't understand. You get some good aspects of it as to why, going back to why I'm good on a bodybuilding diet is because I still have the mentality of there's food at the house. And it can be a scarcity mindset, but it's more so it works perfectly because there's good food at the house. There's food at the house that has purpose to it versus just falling to fast food that at this point it just doesn't correlate well with having a nice supercar and going through McDonald's. It just doesn't correlate. Doesn't look right. And it's just like you're not going to fuel a Ferrari with unleaded regular. You're going to try and get Supreme. So
yeah.
But it's just you have to. And back to the philosophy too, it's an excuse. But going back to that is why trying to side tangent off this, but of one thing you said of how people project onto you, and it's true. They can find their reasoning and stuff, but their reasoning or their excuses as to why they're the way they are, and they blaming it on you. Like same thing too, where with being successful in life. Oh, you got the good deal, and like you don't have to buy your bootstraps. It's a reasoning, but it's not an excuse to excuse you of accountability.
Mm-hmm.
So it might, like, yes, if I'm on gear, so what? You can get on it too. I'm not saying you do, but it doesn't excuse your accountability for being the way you are and trying to project your insecurities onto me of you not taking care of yourself. So, but anyways, back to, and there's my own philosophy in general, just rates are too high, but the general idea with generational wealth is you have to have good income enough to save money and invest. And real estate is the best thing to invest in right now. But right now with rates the way they are, and I'm going to basically save the down payment for what I'm looking at in real estate in the car. And as soon as something comes up that's viable, because I was actually, we talked about this in a private chat with me, you, and Walter, another friend that's a roommate right now of mine, is I could have shifted everything that I learned to get this car into the real estate market as far as smart ways and unideal ways of funding for that loan. because that car is basically 230,000, which is a nice 20% down payment for a multi-million or $1 million apartment complex. That's the best way to shortcut building cash flowing income from real estate versus single family homes. Because single family homes, you're dealing with headaches anyways, as being a manager of the property and then tenants and all that, versus you can scale it to at least 8 to 10 units of multi-unit apartments, and you're more than breaking even. You're actually making money on the back end if you can manage it yourself.
Yeah.
So it's just, that's the best way to go about it. It's just, no matter what you do, level up in the business or work job that you have right now, whatever it is, enough to save money. And if you have the down payment, and there's other ways, just creative ways of creating funding that I learned through credit. Get good income to save, and then fix your credit, because credit is the biggest thing right now. To the fact that I'm approved for up to 250,000 secured, a little bit less, over 100 grand unsecured loans right now. And it goes back to my signature, because yes, you're allotted that credit, but that credit, you have to pay interest on it, off it, obviously. Mm-hmm. But if my signature is enough and trusted to make the cash flow of money go through for people to pay rent, for me to provide them housing, and I'm making money, and I'm making the bank money because they're lending me that responsibility of money, I'm very proud to be able to have my signature hold that responsibility and make everyone money. And that's all I'm doing. I'm just a conduit for money, which is energy flow. Money doesn't buy happiness, but happiness is energy, and you can direct it wherever you want to facilitate that.
Yeah. Yeah, man. What I really enjoy about this is the fact that, like you said it earlier, like you fake it until you make it. And there's different levels of how that can affect you. But what it seems like to me is that you envision like a really high version of yourself, like the highest version of yourself. And it seems like what you've done is you strive for it and you became that person. And now it seems like all these other things that you attribute to your highest self are now manifesting, such as the car, such as the generational wealth, such as the inspiration and influence of other people. And can you kind of go into that? Like, where did you start believing in being a higher version of yourself, and how that has manifested into your life?
So I'm already doing that, looking back even a year, because it's only been a little under 2 years since I got out of the Navy. But like in those 2 years, I've experienced basically multiple lifetimes. Is the fact that I can look back at my Instagram and the posts that I've gone through. But going back to that is I envision myself, my biggest fan in my entire life is going to be me when I'm 80. And look at everything I've done. It's my biggest motivation to be 80 and look back at my posts and my online history and just everything that except my web chat or my web history search. But besides that, my Instagram and just everything that I posted, and looking back that what I struggled through, and sometimes what I thought was a big deal wasn't a big deal, but also just everything that I've accomplished. My 80-year-old is going to be my biggest fan because I'm working up to be that. And at the same time, my 80-year-old self is my biggest mentor, because I've talked about it too, as be the man that you want to admire and give it to the world. And there's mentors here and there now, but your biggest mentor should be who you want to be in the future. And it's fake it till you make it, but you have to envision that. And part of being that man is daily habits. And like I said, breaking generational curses and stuff like that, with learning how you work. And there's one of the things I learned being a nuke is the biggest thing that we had to facilitate to learn so much and so quick is learning how we learn. And with that, I've applied that to other things, learning how we act and how we deal with stress and everything in general. I had to learn that to keep leveling up. And the I think you mentioned too is the juice worth the squeeze. So how I want to be in the future, it's going to take time, and I have to enjoy that process. Same thing as going back to, and I'm applying this going back to the philosophy of working out in general. It's just like sometimes I have to. We all, as guys that are really into the gym, know that it's therapy. It is therapy,
Yeah.
and you can transmute everything that you're dealing with and apply that to the gym, or just relief with gym therapy, because you're at that point you're too exhausted to overthink, but you're probably thinking about it 100 miles per second while you're doing a rep, 300 pounds behind your back and stuff. But you learn that the best workout is when you're in that moment, when you're dealing with that weight under you and you're pushing through. And one of the philosophies I have is uh, the darkest times in your life is where merit is made, just like a squat, a 500, like Ronnie Coleman, he probably wanted to do 2 more squats of that 800 pounds. But when he was, that merit is built at the bottom, because the longer you go down there, the reward is afterwards. But if you learn to not, you don't have to enjoy it, but you learn to live in that bottom of that squat and get back up, you apply that to life. When life gets really hard, and you've been at the bottom, you get back up. It's so rewarding. And guys that work out know how rewarding it is to get under a squat and get it up by yourself.
Right.
But it's, if you can reflect on that, you can apply that to life. That's character building, and that's what ultimately makes you a better man at the end and what you want to be. But you have to go through it to get there, and you can't fake it. You can't fake that. You have to. So that's why I'm applying it. Like, getting in the car was a little bit of a hassle here and there, but I made it harder on myself by getting on this prep for no reason other than just to envision and same thing that I remember with the Corvette that I'm flying this now. I'm not getting it to compensate, and people are going to know it's not a compensation vehicle. Even though I'm 35, I got the Corvette before I was 30. My motto was Ferrari before 40, but the power of manifesting to get it before I turned 35. And my saying was, I thought of getting it in February and actually applied, got denied, so I had to fix my credit and everything since February. It's just the mental hacks of just making it happen with manifest, and just becoming an addict to it, basically, is the philosophy. The mantra that I kept saying is March seed planted, April showers, May flowers. And that car is a spider. I just can't wait for it to bloom when I take the top off and automate it, just watch it just be there. And then I'm the seed in the middle, just implanting everything else that I can to keep manifesting and inspire who I can.
Yeah.
But it's just... Yeah, I forgot what the original topic was, but
no, we're good. No. I don't mind you going on tangents, man. It's a podcast. We're supposed to go on tangents, keep ourselves talking about certain things, and segue it. 2 things I did want to highlight here, and it's funny because now when I said that, I can only think about the first one, which is the habits, because I feel like, for example, one of the things that you inspired me to do, and one of the things that I found a huge intrinsic motivation for, is just the daily habits. And the reason why I think habits are so important is because, like, for me, I just started competing bodybuilding, right? I just got done with my 3rd competition. It's interesting when people ask me, hey, what should I do to get into shape like you? And I'm like, sign up for a competition. And you're just like, what? No, I can't fucking do it. And the reason why I think that's really important, that A, you have the mindset of, A, I can't do it. And then B, if you really break down what it takes to get ready for a competition, it's not far off from what people are normally doing if you have out some kind of a regular regimen. You just kind of have to tighten up a certain amount of habits. You just got to switch your proteins over to more lean sources and carbohydrates to more like complex carbohydrates. And trust me, that's not very difficult at all. But what I find is that a lot of people will tell themselves they're training for a competition, and because they set out to be so far out, they don't even look into what those habits or what that means for them to get there. So they even just push it off. The same thing happens when you're like, oh, I want to get a Ferrari, I want to get this. But then people are like, wait, that seems so far out. They don't even break down what those actions are. But because of you tried out, you're like, hey, my credit, it got denied. I need to improve my credit. Because once you start applying for it, once you start setting yourself up for it, you see the things that you need to do better with so that you can obtain your goals. But it really takes that moment where you're like, wait, what do I need to do in order for me to actually obtain the goal? Instead of just like telling yourself, I want to have abs, instead of telling yourself, I want to have a nice car, like break that down into measurable actions. And then, right, then you'll realize that it's not really about the dreams or their aspirations. It's about how do you break those down so you can actually go and achieve your goals, go out and achieve your dreams. Because I feel like a lot of people in general, especially a lot of men, like, I want a nice car, I want a nice body, I want a beautiful woman. But like we said earlier, like, men's value comes from what they can provide. And instead of using that as a roadmap to build themselves, they view all the things that they don't have and view it as a deficiency, and then get upset that they're like, hey, I want all these things, but I'll never have them. But it's like, if you really fucking want them, you can build yourself up and create that image for yourself and create that version of yourself if you really want it. But what I see, and why I value you as a friend in the conversations that we have, I see a lot of other people, instead of having Ferrari dreams or instead of having bodybuilding dreams and building towards those goals, they see those goals and don't do anything about it. And they keep themselves in a shell of themselves, and they kind of blame the entire world. And for me, what I've seen more of that. More people want all these things in their lives, but don't want to put in any of the legwork for it. They don't want to put any of the groundwork for it. And then they get upset at everybody else. And I see that more than anybody else, or more than anything else. For you, Juan, I guess what I'm trying to get to, do you see that same thing amongst like common behavior in the culture, or how is that for you based off of your perception?
Yeah, I try to be empathetic, but it's common among people, and I've learned, back to what we say, is as a man, your value is on what you can provide. But what you can provide is based off who you are as a man, that only you know, and only you can affect that. So you go back to people wanting all these things instead of being the person that is those things. As far as, because if you were to get a woman and give her everything, and but you're just giving her something, you're giving her money, or you're giving her status, or you're giving her a car, and you're giving her a nice body that you have or whatever, you're still giving her things that aren't you, and you're trying to supplicate. And so with that, men are just, the example you're trying to talk about is, they want something without doing the work to become that person that can have those things. Because until you become a man that can provide those things and have those things without needing them, you'll never be complete.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing I've learned is I have to encompass who I envision myself to be able to comfortably afford this lifestyle, this car, this physique, and the status of myself, because it can all be taken away, and I have to be fine with that, because I can be fine with it because I've learned that my merit is in the work that I did to get there. And I'll gladly do everything in my will to get back there, because it is my value of myself. The work that I did, nobody can take away. Even if you take my health away, even if you take my car away, even if you take my house and everything, it doesn't matter, because I did the work to get there. And I know if I want it, I can get it back, because even if you took those away, I did the work. You can't take the fact that I did that work. And I know that within myself. And that's one of the things I learned with bodybuilding is it's fleeting. You do the show and it's all, and what was it for? But then you look back, is the trophy is one thing, but fuck that. It's the reward. And that's why I'm so proud of you that you did 2 shows and you went through it. We have conversations here and there, but I'm proud of you. No matter the placing you got first or second, honestly, I went first in my body show, but it was novice, and it wasn't what I thought. I wanted competition, and my second show I got beat, but I was way happier because I had families and friends there, and it was an example of the work that I did. And like, yes, I was rewarded with families and friends consoling me, but it didn't matter if I didn't win, because of the fact that I was so proud of the work that I did. Yeah. And I did it during when I was getting out of the Navy, and it was a big crutch for myself of therapy of the reasons why I got out. But it's just, you have to become that to be able to afford that without you holding yourself to a steam of external things instead of the internal that you did the work. So you have to do the work. And like you said, it comes breaking it down to be who you want to be to get those things. So you build disciplines and stuff, because motivation only gets you far. But once you build habits and stuff, the habits is what is you can break that mental barrier and mental hacks to understand how you work, to rediscipline yourself, and where it becomes ingrained, it just becomes who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I've learned. It's just like you have to become that to it doesn't matter. The results don't matter. You can just keep walking and you're going to get there, but you have to enjoy the walking.
Definitely. And what I do appreciate is what you just talked about earlier, with regards to like getting ready for a bodybuilding competition and facing the challenges that come in lieu of that. Because I think a lot of the process and a lot of the process of growing, the process of building better habits and the process of visualizing what you want is going through the struggles that comes with pursuing those challenges, because it's by going through that struggle, it's by pushing yourself in lieu of not having motivation, or even getting yourself to the gym when you just feel like absolute shit, but you need to get this done. It's those moments of adversity, those moments of still holding yourself accountable and being disciplined, that builds the appreciation for the respective entities that you end up achieving. And you know, like for me, I know, for example, like one of the biggest things that's helped me attribute my own value to myself is all the breakups that I've had with like ex-girlfriends. You know, I keep, you know, I remember for the longest in my younger 20s, and honestly, probably up until I was 30, I put a lot of who the heck I was based off of the validation I was receiving from my partner or respective partner, the person I was pursuing at the time. And I think the reason why I have so much self-worth now is because I put my worth into other people's hands. And then when it got shit on constantly, or it wasn't attributing the way I thought it was supposed to be, then it's like, wait a minute, I keep making my happiness and my validation into someone else's hands, and it's been shit on so many times over. What happens if I start making it my own self and making it my own priority? And now I feel like that's the reason why I have the foundation that I do, is because I felt like shit by putting myself, you know, my worthiness into other people's hands. When it comes to my health, I remember being fat, being a degenerate alcoholic, partying 24/7. And now I'm here. And it's like, if it wasn't for those moments, if it wasn't for like when I got divorced, if it wasn't for when I got fat as hell, if it wasn't for when I got broke, I wouldn't be where I'm at with my relationship with myself, relationship with others, my body, my health, and my finances. And so what I do appreciate about you, our conversations, and the things that we honestly harp on is we constantly like, all right, this shit kind of sucks. Yeah, this is challenging, but figure out if it's worth the challenge. And if it is, continue pursuing it. If not, then yeah, maybe you should look into it. And so it's like really important for us to emphasize that. It's like, yeah, a lot of these things that we're talking about, it's great to strive for, but it's going to come with challenges. It's going to come with a lot of life telling you, fuck you, you don't deserve it. And it's up to you at that point to like, if you face that moment, am I going to be all sensitive, like, oh my God, okay, I'm not going to go after it? Or B, you're going to say, fuck that, I still want it, I don't give a fuck, we're going to go through it and we're going to go achieve it. What I also find interesting about this conversation, Juan, and the fact that we're here, is the fact that, like, yeah, like we said, 10 years ago or so, we were in the Navy, or on the Carl Vinson in reactor, and quite possibly, I want to say, one of the most toxic environments ever. Because wait, were you there when the reactor officer took us all on the flight deck and then told us that he doesn't give a fuck about our morale? Were you there for that?
Which officer was that?
That was Captain Fatalum.
I think I was there afterwards.
You were there after there? Okay.
I was there for beer ogle, and afterwards Robinson, I think.
Oh, beer goggles. Yeah, beer goggles.
Yeah, I caught the tail end of that toxicity, though, especially in mechanic division. It was pretty bad.
It was. So yeah. So just to let everybody kind of know here about the atmosphere that me and Juan connected through. The reactor. All right. So the Navy is already challenging in and of itself. There's already a lot of politics that kind of go with it. There's already a lot of bullshit and stress as it comes to deployments, missions, the whole nine yards. But reactor department, as you can imagine, working with nuclear power and propulsion of the ship on top of everything else that reactors is responsible for, there's like Navy politics, and then there's nuclear propulsion politics, and then so it's just politics on top of politics. And those kind of atmospheres and cultures definitely develops just stress because people don't want to take ownership. They want to deflect onto other people. A lot of egotistical bullshit. I'm a chief. You need to do this. And it's interesting on how, in lieu of that toxicity, kind of what we talked about, the negatives, I have built so many amazing relationships, and I have, it's still to this day, it's challenging for me to find people that I trust as much as those that I served with, as much as those that I went through those deployments with. Like, even when it comes to people that I fucking hated in the Navy, I still will trust the majority of those guys over the majority of people I meet now in the regular civilian world. And I think a lot of that just has to do with the fact of all the bullshit that we kind of went through as people together. I'm Juan, for you, what has that been like, I guess, with like meeting people, the kind of people that you meet outside of the Navy and the challenges that you face in the Navy? Like, how does that carry out in your interactions with people now?
As far as what kind of, so I agree with you completely. Like, I trust a lot of friends and people that I served with, just because we all shared that Stockholm syndrome and then the negativity and stuff. But like, for lack of a better word, we ate our own if you weren't fit and if you weren't a good person for the most part. But we sought out the positivity, and we could see the bright lights that were there when individuals we served with, people that were good characters despite the toxicity in the environment that we were in. So we build lifetime friends there, and camaraderie that you're welcome to stay at my couch, not just Alan, but other people that I've served with at any time. And it still surprises me to this day that the same thing was reflected back to me. Certain people and friends, juniors or seniors of me, that if I am in town, I'm 100% welcome to crash on their couch. And we weren't that close, but we were still served together. And that carries a lot of weight, and realizing that I share the empathy with other people. So, and it's hard to get that with regular civilians, and but I don't understand the question really, is because more so it's just that I see with other people that I served with, especially you too, is we were limited, we were capped. I mean, we know we were capped, not just by our ranks, but our policies and stuff, and our liberty too in general. But now, when I got out within that year, I got out when I was 30, 34, I believe, or 33, but it's just, I felt behind. No degree, starting all over again. And I felt 10 years behind. So I felt 10 years behind, starting over, no degree, and just no money really saved. And then I had a career, but I left that career to start over again. And also, but I left with the idea that I was free. Nothing was going to limit me, and I was limitless in potential of what I could do. And I still feel that to this day. And I've had to learn to dial it down a bit, because I've accomplished a lot in these 2 years, that I'm no longer building. I felt like I was building on sand for these first year or so. But now I'm building foundations on actual. I'm not spinning my legs, spinning my tires. I'm actually building something. That's what the Ferrari entails, and I envision it just to keep going, because it's just a start. Like, everything beyond this point is extra, though, too. Like, I didn't imagine making what I'm making right now, ridiculous money. That everything after this is extra. So if I were to lose it, that's fine. It's just, but I'm gonna keep working for more, and because I'm not capped, I'm not limited by anything anymore, and I could be a billionaire if I want to. Another philosophy I kind of talked to Walter about is how can I get that? Brainstorming myself is, how can I get a Bugatti in a year? I don't want a Bugatti. I don't want it. I just want the hassle of it. But what work do I have to do? Because I want to do the work. I want to vision the work that I have to do in a year for my signature to have the responsibility to drive a car like that. That's what I want. I want to envision the work that I have to do to have a Bugatti in a year. I'm not going to get a Bugatti, but I want to be able to have my signature sign off on getting that in a year because I know I'm limitless. I'm no longer capped by the Navy. I'm free. I'm free, and this is one of the few things that you could do in America. But yeah, within the year, I felt behind, and I'm leveraging that feeling of behind to accomplish so much in 2 years. That go back to what you said that I finally have a good job to where I don't need to go back to school. I'm set for life. As long as I do my degree, I can retire. I can retire right now, but obviously the Ferrari and everything else is a purpose for it too, where I can't retire now. I have to fund that right now. But the idea is I want to get a degree, and what do I have to do now? So it's the plan and vision. I have to. It's not when someday. It's now. I have my orientation next Friday, and then I start summer semester. I should be done with the degree if I go full time and work, and be done with the degree in 3 years. I'm gonna take my time, but I just maximize my potential to keep promoting myself. And the degree is just paper, but I just want the responsibility that it encompasses of the pay will come, but I just want to be able to do what I want and not feel like a job. Like I would gladly do fitness and bodybuilding for the rest of my life, but it's not challenging to me. I mean, it's an intrinsic challenge, but it's not challenging me mentally and intellectually as it is. It's another aspect if you want to do coaching and stuff, but that's something I'll delve into later. I feel like coaching and fitness influencing and fitness, bodybuilding, and it's a pyramid scheme. That's what I think it is, and it's not a bad thing that it is a pyramid scheme. But everything that you've learned in bodybuilding for prep, you could Google it online. You can Google everything on. There's calculators on. Same thing with coaching or business coaching. Everything you can find online. And there's nothing special about it. There is programs and set that help you scale and stuff for sales and stuff like that. But it's a pyramid scheme. It's all it is. But it's not a bad thing. Because really what you're just selling is you're selling yourself. You're not selling a product. You're not selling with fitness and bodybuilding coaching. You're not selling a product because everything that is available online. What you're selling is that this conversations and stuff like this is time is money, and time of people that make money and movers of the world. They're going to get paid because they influence it and they can affect how much you influence. And then the thing with pyramid schemes is just because people at the top that have the most clout and notoriety, they make the most money because they can apply that pressure downwards. But you're not buying anything from them other than their time. But it dwindles down in value how much you're able to charge unless you have already built your pyramid and your foundation. And I say it sounds intriguing, but if you break it down, if you've been in the industry before, it is a pyramid scheme because you have pro bodybuilders that get coached by pro coaches, and those pro coaches coach other people. But it's just the same foundation of knowledge as tiered down, and you're just building habits on them. But the knowledge is there. You can Google that anywhere. And same thing with these influencers that just do or just. It's more a nuisance of stuff with business coaching and stuff, but the same thing. Like you're not really selling any product unless you have the systems in place to have people do sales for them and stuff like that. But that's another thing. It's just a philosophy that I talked about. Right. And you're I don't know what you feel about that, but I feel like it is a pyramid scheme. Because back in the day too, pyramid schemes of like Tupperware or anything, or like these energy drinks or these chocolates or these coffees, the product didn't matter. The product did not matter. People that made it in business or commerces of selling or just MSM, whatever you want to call it, they made it because they hustled. They learned the work ethic and the ideas to influence. Mm-hmm. It didn't matter the product. They were going to make it regardless. Same thing with budybuilding and online coaching and business coaching. People that make it are going to make it regardless of the industry. You can call it a pyramid scheme or not, but it is what it is. Yeah. And it's just something that I'm okay with being an hourly guy. Because I'd rather be the right-hand man of the boss because I thrive in this type of atmosphere of talking and just I forget the word, but like consulting. Like I strive in it because I can break it down, but I'm not the lead.
Yeah,
that's why I can see the fact that. Yeah, that's why I can see the fact that it's a pyramid scheme if you look at it in the big picture of things, because the information is there and you're not selling anything. You're just selling everything that you can find online, and you're just slowly digressing it to the population.
I agree that it's a pyramid scheme, but I think it plays a lot more into how people respond in order for them to be provoked into action. Because what we're saying, like you're right, 100%, you can find every diet plan, you can find every workout plan that's effective online. You could Google it left and right. But there's something about paying for a coach who works with you and knows how to speak to you and knows how to make these things of emphasis that really do play a little bit more importantly than it is to just have the information. Because I mean, just as much as I do, there's every great diet advice, every great supplement, every great workout advice there in the world. But the number one thing that people don't attribute fitness to is just your overall drive to get yourself there. And because you just said it right there earlier, where it doesn't matter, what's in front of you or not. If you want it bad enough, you're going to get there. And, you talked about earlier with your Ferrari, like, hey, how you respond is by just getting it and then figuring it out. And that's how you respond. I'm a lot of the same way. I'm a lot of the get myself there, sign up for something and then just fucking figure it out and then make it work rather than, sitting around and planning for the perfect opportunity, or the typical, I'll wait until Monday. The Monday starts my diet effectively. It's by putting yourself, being aware of who the fuck you are and understanding what provokes you into action, and then B, using that to then get yourself there. It doesn't really matter what stories you tell yourself to get there. It's just understanding how those can play out so that A, you can be disciplined, and B, you are constantly pursuing something that's, higher than yourself. Like for me, a lot of my motivation to create generational wealth, to build a foundation for my future family, as well as just be a person on myself is the fact that like I have this chip on my shoulder from being bullied, from being abandoned into orphanage as like a really young age. And it's that adversity that has constantly pushed me to get to where the hell I want to be. And it's a story that I tell myself. And I feel like it's really important for people to understand what story it is that you need to register to for you to be the best version of yourself. And don't be ashamed of it. Don't be ashamed of who the hell you are. Don't be ashamed of what drives you to be there. Like, sure, it might have taken a girl to break up with you or cheat on you to really fucking figure out what your value is. But good for you. You found out that information for yourself. Now fucking use it. Don't sit there and victimize yourself. Make yourself a better version, especially in lieu of it. And and just like what we said earlier about fitness, it's very black and white. It's either you get the work done or you don't. Your results are a product of you getting the shit done, or if you're not. It's not about how you feel. It's not about if you feel like working out one day and not feeling like the other. It's not about what you post on Instagram or what you don't post on Instagram. Is do you get the job done? Do you get the job done consistently? And if you do, or if you don't, it will be fucking seen. Like everybody will see your body and they'll know if you got the work done or not.
Yeah.
I find this interesting, by the way. I still I still find it hilarious because I could imagine you pulling up to like your local JC in a fucking Ferrari with the top down and the whole 9 yards. What degree are you going to pursue when you go back to college?
Right now, I'm in electrical engineering is what I'm trying to transfer to, but right now I'm in a power engineering. I forget what exactly, but it's a technical engineering degree, but I'm trying to transfer to a bachelor's of science in electrical engineering. Man. I want to get that done, work a few years, preferably in research, but ultimately I want to pursue a PhD in physics. And then the PhD in physics, I want to pursue that to be an astronaut. This is my 10-year goal by 45.
What?
And this is why I'm getting vanity plates with the Ferrari. But and going back to what you're saying, it's just I'm all for people getting fitness coaches and everything, but it's just to enforce the fact that it's a pyramid scheme, that you're not selling the fitness advice. You're selling you. You're selling you as what you provide, your coaching services, and your story that you've explained, because of the fact that people do have to invest. People have to have that kick in the ass. They have to invest in themselves by paying for those services. But they have to understand that a coach can only get you so far. He can't hold your hand the entire way. You have
Right.
to treat a coach like a mentor to be able to. Yes, you want to get goals, but these goals have to become from goals. They have to become sustainable. They can't just be goals. They have to be a lifestyle. The same thing
Right.
with everything that I've expressed, that I want to get the electrical engineering, the PhD, but I want to be an astronaut. And the same thing with being an astronaut is, I joke that I just want to be able to have the view of working out in space and look at the world. That's mostly the joke. But I want the responsibility. I want the responsibility and the privilege of being able to see humanity and the world from that vantage point, and to be honored and humbly blessed to be able to do that, and to have the intellectual prowess to pursue that. And it's scary. It's fucking scary. But it's scary. This is a good scary because of the fact that I know what I'm capable of if I do the work.
Bro, I
But
can't believe.
go ahead.
No, hold on. I really, an astronaut. I had no idea. I actually had no idea that was the 10-year goal. By the way, you're the second person that I served with that wanted to become actually, you're the third person, but I think you're going to be the second person that actually goes out and achieves it. The first person that I knew that was in the Navy that ended up becoming an astronaut. Do you know who Johnny Kim is? The U.S. Navy SEAL who then became a
Yeah,
Harvard
yeah.
doctor. Yeah, he was actually, when I was in State 21, he was in my division. And I remember,
Okay.
like, dude, I remember being in inspection. And you know how like they go through all the medals, all the ribbons, and everything. And by this time, I just got done with prototype, right? So
You got the McDonald's
I
stuff.
just had the McDonald's and the rifle. That's all I had. It was the two, or the pistol. Sorry, the pistol, and
Right.
I might have got the rifle just to say I had 3 ribbons or something like that, because it's so pathetic of what the fuck we've accomplished up until that point. But I was standing next to Johnny while we're doing an inspection, and this dude has 2 bronze stars and 1 silver star, and they
Does
inspected
he have
him.
the seal pin too?
Yes, this guy is a
Oh, this is after
fucking
he's a seal, or
this no yeah this guy was already 8 years in, I believe, by the time he
okay.
got to here. And dude, so the chief, our divisional chief, is doing the inspection, and goes through all the uniform, and literally the person right next to me is Johnny Kim, and he goes, Petty Officer Kim, where'd you get your silver star from? And I swear to God, with like the most like monotonous face, uncaring of the world, no emotions. He just goes, well, we're in the middle of a mission. One of my buddies got shot. I ran over there into the middle of enemy fire, put him on my shoulders, and he's living because of me today. What? Like, what did you do? And like the chief just stopped. He goes, thank you so much for serving our country. And then he goes to me, and I'm like,
Yes.
what the fuck do I say after that? You know what I mean? All I did was fucking be in the Navy for 2 years and get qualified as a reactor operator, which is no small feat by any means. But
No.
but I'm definitely not in the same echelon as a Navy SEAL medic who went out in the middle of a mission and saved his buddy's life and said it with just the most like humble thing. And it's crazy to see him 6 years later all of a sudden see memes about him finally, because I remember he was going to like San Diego State for his bachelor's, and then I think he went to Harvard for his doctorate, and then ended up becoming an astronaut. And so it's crazy to see my other friend now, Juan, over here, wants to be an astronaut as well. And bro, I don't see why not. Like, can you go into why an astronaut is your goal? And then B, can you go into like what you have to do to actually achieve that goal?
Ultimately, I just want solitude, and I know I'll get it up there. And that's the God honest truth. But it's just a responsibility too, though. Is you say this Kim guy, the SEAL, he did that. He said what he did so nonchalantly is just because he doesn't want praise. I would imagine he doesn't want praise for it. He was just doing his job, and not his job for his fellow man. And he doesn't. I see that a lot more so with Medal of Honor recipients. They they don't hold themselves to that high regard that other people hold them to, that they do honestly deserve 100%. But it's just, to them, that reward is the worst time of their life as far as what
Mm.
it represents. And but they didn't do it for that. that they didn't do it, probably didn't out of courage at all. They just did it for their fellow man. And ultimately, too, I want to become an astronaut to be fully utilized. Like going back to, I want to be the man that I want to admire and give to the world. And that's how I see myself, being fully utilized to my intellect and to everything that I learned in the Navy, complete procedural compliance to make the mission work. It's just, it encompasses everything. And however long I do eventually go up into space, it's going to be another deployment that it's going to be regimented. I'm going to love it. I'm going to live in it. And it's just something I want to do. It's visions that I've had since I was a kid, just dreams and just repeating dreams of me in a rocket. It's just, you can call it what you want. It's a manifesting vision since I was a young age. And one of the reasons why I'm so good at working out just intrinsically is it's body mechanics. I understand physics, body mechanics of that too, but it's just in general too is since high school, I was really high aptitude in math and science. And it's just, I love it. Like it's one of the reasons too why I got the car. It's just, I'm big into race physics and race mechanics of how the car handles. I can't wait to track it to understand better how to deal with the apex of a curve and acceleration. And it's just in the back of my head trying to calculate the calculus of the curve and then the acceleration. It's just something fun. It's just to being able to apply everything that I know physically to that. That's what it represents. And to be an astronaut is just it's all encompassing, and it all ultimately going back to what I wanted to pursue my PhD in physics in is how my life, how I see it. I originally got the base C7 to the Z06 to the 458. Now it's going to be a rocket in 10 years. But it's all resonating and harmonizing to be. So I vibrate at the highest frequency and be utilized in this world. And that means applying myself. And one of the things too is going back to why I got the car and why I wanted to get the 458 is I wanted to not be a compensation vehicle of my golden years or middle-age crisis, because I'm the 458 is usually a car that Enzo Ferrari himself said is a car that young men want to drive, but only old people can afford, old guys can afford. And I wanted to break that mold. I'm at the fringe of the age demographic that can afford it, 35 and older, people that have had a good career. But same thing with an astronaut is it's not going to be an easy task, even if I get the PhD and everything and the scholarship or the credentials of scholarly experimental research physicist. I have to maintain the regimen of a good health and good well-being to be able to handle the hardships of being out in space. Yeah. So that's one of the things. I'm going to be hitting that age barrier at 45 to be able to break the thing, but I'm going to do everything in my power to become an astronaut once I'm 35. I think you have up until 52, so I'm already breaking down the few things. That's the ultimate goal, but I still have to start first. I have to get that, which is still it's still daunting at 33, going 35 rather, going back to school to get a bachelor's in electrical engineering. And I'm all for it though, and as scary as it is, it's the vision at the end that's what I want.
That is so crazy. I can only imagine like the first day of like freshman orientation, where they're like, you know how like everybody kind of introduces themselves in some dynamic and like, oh, so can you tell us a little bit about yourself and then where your futures are? Like, well, I grew up not the best of upbringings. I went to nuclear engineering in the Navy. I then got out. I'm this bodybuilder that had a Corvette that went to a Ferrari, and now I want to become an astronaut here soon. Yeah, no big deal. Like that is one hell of a story that you alluded to. Is by the time you're 80, you know, I can imagine when you look back at it, you're like, dude, look at all that I've accomplished. But like you said, you're not doing it for the sake of saying that I accomplished this. Look what I've done. It's just something that you've wanted to do personally, and that's what drives you. I guess from there, what, I mean, I hate to say it, but your goals are literally out of this world. So after you achieve that goal,
I thought your shirt said pun. It said pump hub.
Yeah, pump hub. Right.
Yeah, no, good pun though. Yeah.
Oh, great. Of course. I can only wear this tank top when I'm in a cut. Like here in a few weeks when I regain the weight back from not being in competition mode, it's going to look like a bra on me. So I got to wear it now while I can.
As a reverse, the reverse going good though? Reverse dieting?
I kind of, so I've, not really been reverse dieting. Like I've definitely gained about 8 to 9 pounds since competition.
That's not bad. It's been a week.
Yeah, it's been a week. Yeah, and I
That's
got to
pretty
tell
good
you,
because most of it's water weight, so you'll be good as
yeah,
long as
most of it's
you
water
get
weight,
on it.
and I've also been reintroducing fat back into my diet. Because like, bro, when I cut down, like right before we started carbing up before show, I was like 127 pounds, and as a grown
Okay.
man, that is not very big at
You
all.
you didn't look 127 though. You looked a good 140, 150. I mean, if people knew how tall you were. You looked 160 or so on stage. So I
Yeah,
did not imagine 120, but that's what it gets to get to that level of conditioning. People don't realize you look bigger than you are, at least 20, 30 pounds, depending on your frame and size.
yeah.
And man, that's good. That's because with me with shift work, I couldn't get under 180. And it's just I was
Mhm.
holding too much water, so I pulled out of the last one, and I haven't done anyone since. Right now, I'm around 185, 190, but that's because I stay regimented. But my weight class, I have to lose a good 10 pounds, good 15 to get to the conditioning you were at, though. So, yeah, it's not healthy to get to those levels of conditioning,
No.
but it just if you learn you learn yourself when you get to those levels because it's another gear and it's not it takes a lot of willpower. It's easy work, but it's more so willpower that everything else has to give. Something has to give for you to be 100%. Even
Yeah.
you're not at 100%, but in order for you to give the 50% of energy levels that you have at that, you have to will something that's not there at that point, and everything else has to
Yeah.
sacrifice.
Fuck,
But
dude. Yeah, that
127 though, dude, damn.
his those you hit it right on the head though. Like those, bro, the last month heading into competition, I felt like complete dog shit. Like, yeah, great. You look like I'm pretty sure because so maybe like 3 or 4 weeks before comp, I measured at like 6.7% at 134 pounds. And then by the time we started carbing up, I was at 127 pounds and I was noticeably leaner than when I was at 6.7% body fat. Like I never imagined in my life I would say that I was 6% body fat. And then at one point, I'm pretty sure I was leaner than at 6% body fat. But
Tell me, did you document this? Did you have documentation, like pictures of it? Because you're gonna. I want you to look back at it once you're like not 80, but a few, like even a few months, and just like, damn, just
yeah,
to remind yourself.
yeah, yeah. But what's challenging now is that now that I weigh 8 pounds more, I'm definitely going through it body dysmorphia wise because it's like I'm nowhere near as low body fat as I was. And I spent so much of this last entire year getting to that, being that lean, that now that I'm 8 pounds more, I feel like I'm chunky as hell. I feel like I'm back to being like whatever. But like I was at the gym yesterday, like, bro, you look ripped, you look this. And I'm sticking my head like, I look like I think
Yeah,
I'm a fat ass. Like, what are you talking
yeah,
about?
yeah.
And it's really important, to actually really check in with yourself, and are you being too hard on yourself? Are you being with this? Because I think the one thing that people fail to realize and fail to understand is that when you get to a low body fat percentage, it's not like, oh, game over. It's like, oh, you made it like this. Like, no, if you want to stay there, you have to pay the cost of being at that low body fat percentage. And you have to pay that, not only the physical cost, but the mental and the emotional costs that come with associating yourself with an image. Because once you start doing that, then it's like you put your value into what you look like instead of the habits that get there. And it can definitely be mentally taxing. But on the same token, I would much rather be at this end of the bodybuilding spectrum where I'm going through body dysmorphia, but I have a result that people can look at me and be like, oh, why the fuck are you complaining? You're perfectly fine. Rather than being where I used to be, where I'm like, fat as hell, eating fast food, like, oh, I don't have, I'm going through it with my body. And then it's like, well, because you're a fat ass and it's because you're not taking care of yourself. So it's like, pick your problems, pick what adversity you want to go through, because we're going to always have challenges. We're always going to have problems. It's just picking better problems. One of the best books that I've ever read is The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Have you read that book before?
I think I've read it. I haven't read it.
Definitely read it. So Mark Mattson, he's the author. He talks about the homeless person at the side of a 7-Eleven has money problems. Another person that has money problems is Warren Buffett. But Warren Buffett's money problems are significantly better to deal with than the homeless person's money problems. So it's just, a lot of life is about figuring out what problems you want to have, and it's like, I want to have the problem of having to fit in my workouts or having to fit in the right meals, because of the result of that is way more significant than if I didn't have control over those assets of my life, because then I would be out of shape. I wouldn't feel as great about myself, and I mentally and emotionally wouldn't be functioning at a higher level that I feel like that I'm at with a better physique. So it's really important to, get into that. I forgot why I went into that tangent, by the way. I just went into going into that. But that's that. But anyways, Juan, we're here wrapping up on the very last of this. I really appreciate you being on here. Is there anything else you want to add into this by any chance?
No, it's just you're going through the motions of post prep, and you have to understand what is sustainable to you, at what level and what body fat levels, and you're going to get there. It's just for you to understand that it doesn't matter how you look. It's just the work that you put in, and that you're rewarding yourself by fitting that lifestyle, and then becoming, once you get your dream car that we've talked about, and then for you to be able to fit that with your gym and your physique, but it's tying less of your wealth and your confidence to the look, because the look will come if you just keep working out and you just maintain it. So you have to learn to shift, becoming from feeling like shit to shift. I think I forgot what you said about it. Like, you felt like shit back in the day, but then you shifted your mindset and everything. Keep shifting your mindset to tying less of your confidence and self-esteem to your look, and more to the work that you put in, because you'll realize it's fleeting, especially a competition prep. So you have to understand where you're comfortable maintaining, and you'll break the mold of having less body dysmorphia. It's one of the things I learned the hard way during COVID. I kept trying to do a bodybuilding show, and it kept getting delayed. Like, well, fine, I'll just stay in shape, and it sucked. But I learned to delay results and delay the carrot at the end by just, well, fuck it, I'll just keep working out. Like right now, I'm kind of done with this prep with this car, but I kind of want to keep going at it, because I'm able to maintain the lifestyle. I'm not killing myself overtly to maintain it. Like, I look pretty lean, but I'm not super lean. Like, because you threw me for a loop. Like 127. Wow, that's that number. I've probably, you haven't seen it in a while. I haven't seen it in a while.
Yeah, it was awkward. I got to tell you, when I'm talking to women and they're asking me how much I weigh. That's the worst, because a lot of girls are very close to 127 that I talk to, 120s, 1-teens, and, and because, they're like, wow, you look great. How much do you weigh? 127. Like, what? Like,
yo, did you feel light on your feet though? You probably
I felt ridiculously light, and I just felt so fucking vulnerable. Like, I felt like, I hate to say, I swear to God, I hate to say this, I felt petite. I felt petite. Like, it's not something I want to define myself as such. And I remember, I remember too, the week before my competition, like my peak week, like I was waiting at the gym for a decline bench to like do some abs or whatever. And this little piece of shit kid, I'm like, hey man, how many more sets you have? And he's not even using the bench. He's just using it to put his dumbbells on. Right.
Yeah, so I hate that. People just even sit on it. Yeah.
Bro, and him and his girl, right? And so I go up there. I'm like, hey man, how many more sets you got? He's like, we have one. I'm like, that's a random energy. Like, all right, cool, man. You mind if I weigh? He's like, he gives me this look. I'm like, all right, that's weird. And then all of a sudden his girl's just all like, I went from an injury. I've been recovering for a year and I gotta lift. I'm like, cool, thanks. Like I don't know what's it got to do with you having one more set. But this guy starts staring me down in the middle of this set. And I'm like, bro, are you okay? Like, he's like, there's other declines here. I'm like, okay, but you have one set left. So he picks up, he goes, see you around, little boy. And I'm like, what?
So what?
Yeah. He called it like, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, I have never been, but then I'm like, I'm also 127 pounds. I kind of, like, if I was a piece of shit talker and I was just like, was insecure, I guess I'd call other people that if they were small. But
It's twofold though. I think he was insecure because his girl was probably checking you out more than anything.
probably,
You forget that you're pretty attractive, and even at your size, it's
thanks,
happens a
man.
lot.
Yeah.
But and no wonder you're trying to get an MMA because 127. That's like I don't know what body weight that or body class that is, but it's twofold too. You want to be able to carry yourself where you're 127, but people don't realize you're going to pack a punch or be able to fend yourself out pretty well.
Yeah, that definitely put into it for sure. So what were you saying?
I remember being the lightest I've been is I haven't been 140 since like before the Navy, but when I was that weight, I felt light on my feet. I felt like I could do anything. So I imagine that 127, when your energy levels were pretty good, you felt like a fucking athlete. So shit, man, I'm excited once you jump into MMA.
Yeah,
especially at that weight class.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely not going to be at a 127. No, I definitely want to be back in the 140s or 150s maybe, but not be, still have low body fat. So I got to figure out what that means for me as to how to build that. But I think balancing like an AM bodybuilding schedule and then like a PM training session for MMA kind of stuff. I mean, and by all means, I haven't even started yet. I don't know what that means. I'm just saying it. But kind of a lot of what you said about like achieving goals. I'm one of those kind of people where I just get my foot in the door and then figure it the fuck out. Like I spent a lot of my life trying to set up perfectly and all right, I'm going to get into here. And then by this point, I'm going to be this and that point, I'm going to be this. And very rarely has that ever panned out the way I planned it out to be. And I realized like there's a lot more work than I ever fucking thought it was. And then B, I realized I don't know what that work even means until I start doing it. And so therefore it's like, yeah, I'm telling myself I'm going to get into MMA training and I'm going to eventually end up doing a fight. But like I said it on my last podcast, I might just take that first punch when I'm sparring and I'm like, yeah, you know what? I would much rather stay pretty instead of getting all my face beat and shit like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like part of these podcasts is putting my face on a podcast and actually speaking. If I constantly look like I'm bruised up or I don't look that attractive, I guess, or don't look that confident, I can imagine where it's going to affect me. But yeah, it definitely plays into that. But no way but for you though, have you ever felt like that? Like when you were leaning down for show, did you feel like you're at like a vulnerable spot or anything like that? Or how was that for you when you kind of went through prep?
No, not really. I don't have that problem. It's just
thanks, man.
No, it's just I'm laser focused in the gym. Like I have the reverse. You probably noticed it too. I get too much attention, even when I'm at lean levels, even at alpha land that I go to.
Yeah,
it's like one of the ideas is I want to feel just. I felt that that's my second bodybuilding show. Is I want to be the uncommon among the uncommon, and also never feel like the big fish in a small pond. But the problem I have is I get too much attention if I'm that super lean, and I don't like it, which is why I hate commercial gyms. But I'm also laser focused, so I tend to ignore it. So, but if it's stuff like I do notice tendencies like that where just people just like they're not even using the bench, and sometimes they're just sitting on it. It's one of the biggest problems too with like general people that don't work out regularly. They just don't know. The things that we've realized in the Navy, like we can stand for a long time. It's uncomfortable, but we've learned to stand for a long time.
Yeah.
People just love to sit on benches they're not using, and I hate that. It's just because I'm in and out. I usually go to the gym for no more than an hour and a half. So I'm not trying to socialize or interact a lot. I'm just trying to do my set. So I don't get that much. If I do get it, I just ignore it. Mm-hmm. So I'm sorry that you went through that, but that little shithead doesn't know. I'm pretty sure he was just jealous. His girl was checking you out and talking to him.
It's funny too because he was upset and he was telling me there's other decline benches. Like obviously there's a difference in like where the leg placement is and how you perform certain declines, but you wouldn't know that unless you actually have abs or you have anything. You know, he's a very chunky kid, and so I'm sitting there. I'm like, all right, bro, like I'm going to take ab advice from you. Like, okay, bud, like definitely like absolutely not. Definitely not happening with you at all. And you're right. I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that his girl is just like, I haven't worked out in a year. I'm sitting there like, cool.
Yeah, and also it doesn't matter. It's how you take it. Like you could take it with your confidence. You could take it on the chin that she was just checking you on. He was jealous. That's all it was. Even if you were petite, it's just. Yeah,
even though you're petite,
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's the way you see it is the way it affects you. Because ultimately, everyone's just thinking about themselves, and nobody's thinking about you the way you think they are. Everyone wants to
Yeah.
sell. Even if he was like mad dogging you and stuff, he was mad dogging you probably because he was so insecure. More than, oh, this guy's petite, I could take him on.
Yeah,
No.
I'm starting to see that though more in the gym. I see that like, a lot of people just like I think you have a contrast of two people, and I think it's interesting on how polarized it is to both spectrums. I have the one where the majority, like 90% of the people that work out at the 24-hour fitness that I work out at, are very all like encouraging, like, yo, bro, you look great. What do you do? And it's always just love, right? And that's what I love about people that are gym goers, that we know the cost that it gets to a certain level. And regardless if you're on PEDs or not, you got to put in that fucking work. You know, like one of the things that we always talk about with regards to bodybuilding is there is a negative light to PEDs, but it's only because people don't understand you still got to fucking put in the goddamn work to do it. And so, and people just think you put a needle in your ass and all of a sudden you're going to get results. Like, no, you have to still watch what you eat. You still have to work out. You don't just put something in your body and it just does the work for you. Like, no, you got to still do it. And when you get to that result, when you get to a certain level, people understand it. And it's, you either again, get the self-respect and you get the respect from others, or B, you get the jealousy. And I see a lot of entitled children in the gym, especially in commercial gyms, that, yeah, they just have this attitude. They feel like every bench is theirs and they get to put dumbbells on there. And fucking, it was funny about this because this kid from the rest of the day, because I was just so confused, right? I was just like, I don't have any animus towards anyone at all. And so he just, the rest of the time, I felt his eyes staring me down. And I'm just like, what is wrong with you, kid? Like, what is going on? And finally, it was interesting because towards the end, I saw his eyes on me again, and I looked over and he's mean dogging me, and I just started laughing. I'm like, bro, are you serious? And it's funny because as soon as I started laughing, I think he finally realized how much I did not care about what he was doing. And then 20 minutes later, when I'm on the treadmill, he walks by me, stares me down again. And I look at him and I just shrugged my shoulders. And it's funny because then he looked at me with the same laughing glare that I gave him. And it's funny that I think that he tried to catch my eye contact so that he can act like he laughed me off instead. At least that's the impression I got. I don't want to dive too much into it, but it's just like, this is real life. Like this, you can tell this, what if you
arch enemies or whatever.
But it's like, why? You know what I mean? But it's like, bro, I've gone on deployments. I've been through some real shit in my life, right? And it's like, you think I really care about asking if you have one more set on a decline bench? And he has made that. He's like, I'm gonna get you now. You know what I mean? Like, what? On the same token, if like a few months from now, this guy is fucking chiseled, he's not chunky the way he is, and then he keeps on staring me down, it's like, dude, you're welcome. You're welcome. You know what I mean? That I helped you out, right? You're welcome.
Yeah.
And I hope so. I really hope so. Because again, like people get their motivation and their intrinsic, drive from all different sources. Yep. And maybe you're right. Maybe his girl found me attractive, and that's why she's explaining herself to me. I don't know. But that's for him to learn and that's for him to figure out. But yeah, do you have that at Alpha Elite? Do you have like those kind of people that are just, I don't want to say like, I don't know, privileged or immature?
I don't notice it. I'm too much, like I'm at a weird demographic age. I'm a little too old and feel too old, but I probably still look young. But it's just, what I do notice is people comment, like they expect a return favor or a return like compliment. Hey, you look big. Hey, you look good. And then they're just like, they're waiting for their compliment. It's kind of funny, but it's part of building networking and just being social. But I'm just there to work out. It's like whatever. Just headphones on and work it out. So I just don't pay attention to it. Like I'm there for mutual admiration and motivation, but at the same time, I'm just there in and out. Like these next 3 years and so on right now with school, work, and gym, it's just like a deployment. So my time is regimented. But yeah, I do. There's problems everywhere, and this gym is seasonal as far as having whatever you want to call them. I think they're called. I can still keep up with the nomenclature or whatever you want to call it. Sarm goblins. That's what
Sarm goblin.
Yeah. So like, I'm not an influencer, but I just took people with the clout and whatever you want to call it. It's pretty funny. It's just because it's a big industry in itself. It's ridiculous. But yeah, I don't have an arch nemesis in the gym. At least I don't know of.
Right. I don't know if I have an arch nemesis either, but I mean, I guess
I like how you turned it around though, because you could look at it just like you don't have the problem of thinking small like these small people think it's, but hopefully you're thinking that he gets motivated and in 10 years he's actually intimidating you, but you're just like, man, you look chiseled, so I'm glad I did that for you.
Right. I would love to. Yeah, I would love to see him a few years from now. Let's say he leaned his ass out. Maybe he learned about himself in that process, hopefully. But in general, like, yeah, if I inspired you to be better, then by all means. You know what's crazy? So 50 Cent has a book. I think it's called like Hustle Hard or Hustle Harder or something like that. But he has a segment where he talks about with people. He says that, well, if we can't be friends, can we be enemies? And it's interesting on where you make someone an arch nemesis and it magically makes you improve yourself because you're challenging yourself and comparing yourself to someone else. And although we say comparison is the thief of joy, I think that if you compare yourself to someone else and you don't feel joyful, that's actually a point of emphasis for you to work on yourself and bring a better version of yourself so it doesn't affect you. And mind you, I'm very happy that I'm in my 30s and getting towards my later 30s where I could just laugh at this kid and be like, all right, bro, like grow up. Like, I don't know what's wrong with you. But and the thing is, when he left, I was like, hey man, I don't know what you're going through, but I hope you have a better day. And that's when he called me a little boy. And I just got even more confused. Like, okay. Because, if I was in my younger 20s, really insecure, really cared about my ego, my pride, and how people perceive me, I would have probably said a lot more choice words. And, because of the Navy, I definitely know how to say some shit that'll make people feel insecure. like, the Navy's taught me a lot of things, and talking shit at a really deep level is one of them, but it's definitely interesting. But all right, Juan, I really appreciate this conversation. I really wish you the best in your endeavors, especially, man, a Ferrari, and now you're about to become an astronaut. And considering the fact that we were standing watch together not too long ago on the Navy ship, it says a lot about how far you've come and where you're headed to, man. And I definitely appreciate your time on this.
Thanks, man. And often on of this, just keep happy to have you as a friend, dude. And, I love you, and keep in touch. And whenever you come in town, dude, I look forward to letting you drive it and just being it together, dude.
Oh my God!
Avalanche down the street whenever you want to come.
I don't know if I'm ready for that energy right now. Like, I might. I know me. I'm gonna drive your Ferrari with the top down, head to the gym, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to lose this feeling ever again. It's like, Alan, what are you doing? I'm also getting a Ferrari now. Just like. I honestly
just remember what the work you have to do to get it, and that's where the reward is.
Yeah, I think that when I'm off child support, I think that's where that'll end up going for sure, man. I'm already playing. I got like 2 more years, man. 2 more years off child support. It's like, yes, we're gonna finally do it. But anyways, all right, guys. Thank you guys all for tuning in, and until next time, we'll see you guys later. Deuce.